What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lasser Cast, where my good friend Danny Torkel and I discuss horror movies and streaming shows. Pretty much as long as the Lasser Cast has existed, we have been covering the In Search of series, whether it's In Search of Darkness or In Search of Tomorrow. And those movies are made by our friend, who I really do genuinely consider him our friend, David Weiner. And so we are all the way up to In Search of Darkness, 1995 to 1999, which, as we've talked about with David, that's kind of our bread and butter time for us. So he's got the DVD and everything over there. So, Danny, uh, I thoroughly enjoyed In Search of Darkness, 1995 to 1999.
One
And I want to
second.
talk.
1 second. DVD? What is this? 1998? No,
Oh, okay.
it's the Blu-ray. It's the
Oh,
Blu-ray.
sorry about that. Danny's rocking the Blu-ray over there for those of you that are listening on a podcast. But to me, this time around, it was really great to see all the movies that I didn't watch because out of all the In Search of Darkness movies, this one had the most movies that I've seen. You know, I'd be like, oh, I saw that one. I saw that one. Yep, I saw that one. I really love that one. And so when they would bring up stuff that I haven't seen, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to add that one to my list. So were there a lot of movies on here, Danny, that you had not seen?
A lot of movies, no. They do hit on like one or two movies per year from 95 to 99 that are a little obscure, a little indie, a couple foreign films. Um, that I hadn't seen, like Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo, and its claymation glory. I had not seen. Um, I saw the original Extro, but I never saw Extro 3, and I never thought I would see 5+ minutes of Blu-ray footage about the making of Extro 3.
Right.
But I would say probably between 85 and 90% of the movies.
Wow.
Uh, and like to your point, I saw a lot of them in the theater. I saw a lot of them uh, renting them in the dying days of VHS at when the Blockbuster opened by my house. Uh, Going to Suncoast Video and stores like that were selling DVDs. I remember I bought my first DVD in Suncoast Video in the Kings Plaza Mall in the late, probably want to say maybe 97 to 98 ish
Yeah.
area. And yeah, a lot of the movies that I hadn't seen at that time were movies that you heard like the legends about and you ended up seeing a little bit later, like Audition, um, movies like that. But like so many of these movies have like deep significance to me.
Yeah.
So like just to give you an idea, my friend Josh and I, he was one of two best men that I had at my wedding, and we've been friends since we've known each other since we were like in camp when we were elementary school age, but we
Okay.
became like really great friends in high school. And in the Wednesday before Thanksgiving break in 1999, we went to the movie theater to see End of Days
Oh, yeah.
with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Gabriel Byrne, which I believe, according to this list, may have been the actual last movie covered because that was the end of 1999.
Yeah.
And that movie, we saw that movie, and then we went to a 24-hour diner. And because it was Thanksgiving the next day, we decided, hey, just for shits and giggles, let's have a turkey dinner. And that has become, for the two of us, what we call tradition.
Right.
And now it's 26 years later, 27 years later. And
Whoa.
every single Wednesday before Thanksgiving, for
Yeah.
since End of Days, we get together, we go to the movies, or we if it was the pandemic, we go to his house and we watch a movie on his couch. Or one year we went to a comedy show, but we were still together, and then we always followed up with turkey dinner. And so it's like end of days, like seeing that and being like, oh my God, that movie created this annual tradition for me and my one of my best friends that has stood the test of time. I worked in the movie theater from 98 to 2000, and
Right.
so many of these movies, I lived in the movie theater of House on Haunted Hill, um,
Right.
and they bring up like the soundtrack,
Right.
and Marilyn Manson doing Sweet Dreams. And
Right.
I remember that playing over the end credits, because I was cleaning the freaking theater.
Right. Right.
And so many of these movies from this was our era. You know, we were born in 82, so it's like the horror movies of the 80s are the ones we grew up knowing about and renting and catching up on. The horror movies of 1990 to 1994 are the ones we kind of came of age with, but these are the ones that really framed us as, you know, high school aged, like pubescent teenagers, and
Yeah.
really like set us up for life. So I really loved watching this one. I've loved watching all of David Weiner's extended documentaries. This one, though, from a purely nostalgic standpoint, I think
Yeah.
felt the best to watch. And
Yes.
like, you know, the first thing that Charlotte and I did when this ended was I said, "You're sitting in the living room with me. We're watching Seven right now."
Oh
And
God.
like, so, like, I introduced Charlotte to Seven as soon as we finished the 6 hours plus of this documentary, and she
Wow.
loved it. And it's like just like that gratification of like seeing her love a movie that was in this documentary, that like for us, that, you know, that moment of Seven coming out, you talk about like friggin' moments that changed everything. That's one of those.
Yes. Yes. I saw someone post the other day that Seven is 2+ hours of a really upsetting unboxing video. There you go. No, I mean
Yeah.
it's great to see them talk about Seven in this because there's always a debate. It's come up on our channel many times. What constitutes a horror movie? And so you have Seven on here. You also have David Lynch's Lost Highway is on here, right? So we got Fincher, we got Lynch on here already, and we have movies that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily consider horror. And we've talked about this with David Weiner as well. But I think that both those movies firmly exist within the horror genre.
So
And
I thought of something while I was rewatching Seven, and after I watched this documentary and the section they do on Seven, that I had never really thought about before. Seven is the prototype of Saw.
yeah, yeah,
And nobody would ever deny the horror movie credibility of the Saw franchise.
right,
But if you think about it, Saw is a human killer who does not actually commit the murders, kind of puts the people in position to commit the murders.
right,
And the first movie, the original Saw, is not as graphic as you remember, doesn't really show anything, you know, and it tricks you into thinking it's this gory spectacle. Seven might be gorier and more
yeah.
disgusting than Seven is. And
But you
it's
then
the
saw it,
and yet people will argue, you know, what is Seven is about two cops hunting down a serial killer. What's Saw about? It's about two cops hunting down a serial killer.
right,
And
right, right.
nobody denies Saw's credibility as a horror film franchise. Seven is that. It's so purely a horror movie. And like my aunt was even like, I can't believe you let Charlotte watch that. They show so much gore, and she's telling me about how she remembers seeing the head in the box, and I'm like, you don't see the head in the box. I literally just watched the movie. You don't see it. In fact, it flashes to a still fucking photograph of Gwyneth
Right,
Paltrow. That's how effective it is as a horror film. It tricks you into thinking it's gorier than it is.
right, right. Yeah, and I mean, like, that's sort of the Mandela effect, right? I mean, I was just listening to this awesome fucking audiobook, A Convenient Parallel Universe, which is about the Ghostbusters franchise. And they were saying that a lot of people remember Slimer coming at the screen at the end of Ghostbusters 2 out of the Statue of Liberty. But that doesn't happen in Ghostbusters 2. I actually just watched Ghostbusters 2 myself a couple days ago with my kids. And it's funny, like the Mandela effect, you remember things being a different way than they actually were. Now, I look back at these horror movies, and I remember coming out of the theater for a few of them and being like, that was so stupid. But that was from my teenage perspective. Then you see the people that made these movies talking about them. And that's what I really liked about this documentary. This has happened in all the In Search of Darkness movies, but this one, it seemed to really stand out, where they would really focus on just like one person from a certain movie and just like listen to them. Like, especially like Jamie Kennedy with Scream, or they kind of went back and forth with Michael Rosenbaum and what's her face from Urban Legends,
Rebecca Gayheart.
Rebecca Gayheart, right? Like they would just kind of go back and forth with certain people. There's that one guy that was in Lord of Illusions, and then he was
And
in
the Mummy. And the
Who's that?
Mummy, yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin J. O'Connell.
Yeah.
I think, or Kevin J. O'Connor.
Yeah. Well, just regardless, it's just so great to see someone talk about the experience of making a certain movie, And I fucking loved Lou Diamond Phillips talking about bats.
Yeah.
Like I worked in the movie theater too, around the same time as you, Danny. And I remember Bats was out. I didn't go to see Bats because I was like, that looks so fucking stupid. But then, like, hearing Lou Diamond Phillips talk about it, he was really fucking funny.
Yeah, I saw Bats because I worked at the movie theater, and I never sat down to watch it, but I took like 15-minute breaks for a weekend, and I think I caught all of Bats from beginning to end. And I'm a creature movie guy. It's a silly creature movie. It's the type of movie that if I showed it to you today, you'd probably assume it didn't get a theatrical release. It was straight to, DVD or straight to video. But I can attest, it was out in theaters, and I saw parts of it in the theaters. So that's one of the nice things about the two 90s docs that David has done is for us again, it's getting to kind of like relive these movies that we have like fond memories of. I kind of view this like almost musically, where it's like my favorite bands from the 80s I didn't listen to in the 80s. Like I didn't listen to a single Metallica song in the 80s. They're my favorite band. I got into Metallica in junior high because a friend of mine gave me a tape of the Black Album, and I heard Enter Sandman, and I went, well, now I want to listen to every song by that band. And
Right.
so it's like, you see Halloween when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, and then you want to go watch all the Halloweens. You see, I saw Nightmare on Elm Street 3 when I was way too young in 1989, and that made me want to go watch all the Freddy movies.
Right.
But these movies, the 1990 to 94, and then this one especially, 95 to 99, these are the ones that you have the memories of, that you actually went to see. You remember where you were when you saw these movies. It's not like, oh, I caught it, I rented it on video at this point in this group. No. Like I saw Deep Rising in the movie theater. The Sixth Sense and the Blair Witch Project. I was, we were part of. Those were not just like movies. Those were game-changing cinematic events.
Right.
Like we did a whole month on this channel talking about M. Night Shyamalan. You cannot imagine what it was like. If you're younger than us, if you're like a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha kid who, thinks that there's like, viral stuff that's scary, Charlotte's really excited about this movie coming out, Backrooms, because she watches the videos and the games, and Five Nights at Freddy's. She watches videos about the games, like
Right.
Blair Witch Project and the viral sensation that was in 1999.
Yeah.
Like, you can't replicate that now. You can't replicate what it was like seeing uh The Sixth Sense for the first time, and you know watching people's heads explode when they saw that ending for the first time. It really hit this one, you know it just hit differently for that reason, in a positive way. One
Yeah.
of the big focuses of this documentary was the music, the soundtracks, the scores of these movies. And if I go and dig out my CD book, my giant album full of CDs, I
Right.
probably have the soundtracks to at least 10 of the movies here.
Right.
I definitely have the Screams 2 and 3 soundtrack, the Crow soundtrack, Bride of Chucky, which is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. uh I mean, there's so many. All of those horror movies had those great metal and hard rock, and then new metal soundtracks to them.
Yeah.
uh yeah, it was just such an awesome experience getting to and I watched this one in pieces. I was like very careful to not like try to sit down and binge this for 6 hours and like
Right.
tire myself out. I'll admit I watched this is on it's up on Shutter, and I watched a lot of it on Shutter just so that I could because I only have a Blu-ray player in my bedroom. So if like Athena was sleeping, I would just go in the living room and knock out like 30 minutes at a time, or 40. Like Charlotte and I'd be like, all right, we're gonna eat dinner. You want to watch like 5 movies? Okay, we'll watch 5 movies. Or we'll
Right.
just do 1996. And then
Right.
so and Charlotte has seen a bunch of these movies too, so she really enjoyed it. And Scream is one of her favorite franchises, so getting to see the deep dives on the first two, especially, uh, made her very happy.
Right. And what's cool is that you see the shift with Scream, right? When Scream finally shows up in this documentary, you see the shift in horror from when it happens. Like there's all the movies prior to Scream, and there's all the movies after Scream, and then you just start seeing Scream similar movies, right? I always really liked that pre-Scream time because I feel like there were so many weird movies that were essentially mainstream movies. Sure, there's direct-to-video stuff, right? But there was stuff that was in the theaters that was just weird, where they were doing stuff that wasn't necessarily slashers, right? And then Scream comes by, and then all of a sudden, okay, we're back to slashers. Um, it's funny because I didn't go back and rewatch it, but there was this like one woman, this one Asian woman, where it seemed like they only had her explicitly to talk about these weird, random movies that, you mentioned one of them already. You mentioned Frostbiter, but then she also
Yeah.
talked about some of these other weird. There was a movie called Killer Tongue, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? That is, you saw that?
Yeah. Crazy movie. It's got an amazing cast. Doug Bradley, who plays Pinhead, Robert Englund, they just show up in like weird cameos. It's just a crazy movie, and it's type of movie that was of its time, probably can't be made today. But like I'm just looking through like the list, and they have this amazing booklet that has the list of every movie. And like so many of the movies we've talked about on this channel, we've covered the Shining miniseries, we've covered Event Horizon, we've covered uh Strangeland just recently, I think last year.
Yeah.
Um, and then you brought up Scream, and I think the one person who really gets focused on a lot is Kevin Williamson. The impact that Kevin Williamson had really, he is the dominant person of
Yeah.
late 90s horror, because Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, all of these Urban Legend, all of these movies follow the same template. They have the same poster image, hot teens, uh, hot teenagers who are really like 25, uh, getting killed by, a human in disguise masked killer who's usually one of the group. Um, I just showed my horror club, The Faculty, inspired in part by this documentary. And I had like a group of like 7 high school kids watching The Faculty for the first time, and they loved it.
Yeah.
They thought like everything in it was cool, and they are like literally relating to the characters because Kevin Williamson somehow knew how to write high school characters better than anybody.
Right.
Even friggin' Halloween H2O he wrote.
Right. 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 Oh, and they talk about that in this as well. Halloween H2O. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they even gave some insight into that because we've covered Halloween H2O. We covered. They talk about Texas Chainsaw. Texas. I'm here. I'm here. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, the stand I use is a piece of shit. But they talk about that fucking horrible Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Matthew McConaughey
And Renee Zellweger. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna take this plug out. But like, it's so cool for them to like talk about things that we have reviewed on this channel and then just like get this extra insight. But then I'm like, shit, man, we never covered the fucking Frighteners. We haven't talked about The Craft. Like you said that we did the Stephen King, The Shining, but I don't think we did that version of The Shining on here.
Maybe it was just me. We covered, I think like we ranked all the versions of The Shining, and I think actually Athena came on and reviewed that with me because I remember watching that with her because we watched The Shining, Doctor Sleep, and then the 1997 TV version of The Shining, which I like that they included that because in 90 to 94 they included The Stand and Stephen King's It. You can't talk about 90s horror without mentioning not just Stephen King adaptations, but the TV adaptations.
Yes.
I like that they even brought up the ones that are less well remembered, like the Tommy Knockers and the Langoliers, which feature some of the most laughable special effects, like early digital computer effects that do not age well. Also features a very loud and obnoxious Bronson Pinchot.
Yes. Yeah, and then they also bring up Thinner in this one too, which I thought that was really awesome too. I mean, they talk about Event Horizon. They have it's Paul W.S. Anderson, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he did Event Horizon. He's one of the talking heads in this documentary. He talks about that.
The Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, the Resident Evil. Yeah, I love fucking Event Horizon, and we've never done a whole episode on just that, But then, like, you have other filmmakers that come in and talk about movies that I haven't seen, which they have, what do you call it? Mike Flanagan, of all people, talking about that Hellraiser movie. Was it Hellraiser 4? At that point, the one with it's in space. It's like 3 different generations.
Hellraiser Bloodline, which is so much better than it has a reputation for. It was supposed to be directed by Kevin Yeager, who did all the effects on the Child's Play franchise at that point. And then he wanted his name taken off of it because his script was rewritten. You have a very young Adam Scott before he became big. Adam Scott is going to be in the movie Hokum, which comes out Friday, which happens to be my birthday. So hopefully Charlotte will give me a birthday present of allowing me to take her to a movie.
Oh, nice.
And Yeah, I really like Hellraiser Bloodline. The joke of it being that it's an Alan Smithy production, which is the name that they put on movies where the director doesn't want any credit.
Right, right. And it's funny because Hellraiser is connected to my very favorite story in this documentary. Because when they're talking about Lord of
I know
Illusion,
exactly what you're gonna say. Go for it.
yeah, yeah, there's one part where there's like a orangutan or something in Lord of Illusion, or a mandrill monkey or something, some kind of ape. And they need it for Lord of Illusion, and Doug Bradley is around when they go to get it, and he's dressed up as Pinhead for the Hellraiser movie, and he shows up on set with the fucking monkey. I couldn't like even process that if I was to see that in person. Like that would just blow my brain away. You know,
Yeah.
I love that fucking story.
Yeah, I love shit like that. Those are like and Doug Bradley, he's in the yeah, he tells that story. It it's just there's uh so many memories. One of my favorite parts of this, weirdly, was when they talked about a movie that not many people will stand up for and talk positively about. But I loved the section on Gus Van Zant's Psycho
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
in 1998. And I forgot who the talking head that David was interviewing, but there's this great part where the guy talks about how Gus Van Zant's coming off of Goodwill Hunting. The movie won multiple Academy Awards: Best Supporting Actor, Robin Williams; Best Original Screenplay, to Damon and Affleck. And he was on top of the world. And he could have made any movie he wanted. And he chose to do a shot by shot remake of Psycho. And they talk about how it's like when you are at the top, you have one chance to like have you have one chance to basically call your shot and be like, that's the movie I'm doing. And he
Right.
wasted that shot. Like, even today, Gus Van Sant is a very well respected director,
Yeah.
but he, in 2026, he cannot show up at like a studio and be like, I'm Gus Van Sant. This is the movie I want to make. Let's do it
Yeah.
right now. He had that carte blanche in 98 and he wasted it on Psycho. And then the follow up to that was that they said, basically paraphrasing, they were basically like, thank God the movie was a complete failure. Because
Yes.
had
Yeah.
it not been a failure, had it been financially successful and critically successful, it would have triggered an entire uh re shot by shot remake craze where people
Yes.
would have remade The Shining shot by shot. People would have remade uh Halloween shot by shot. And yes, of course, we could talk for infinity about remakes and franchises and IP and people and bad remakes, good remakes, you name it. But I don't think there's ever been another shot by shot copy and paste of an original movie like that 1998 Psycho. And to quote the paraphrase, thank God it failed.
Yes. Yes. Oh, dude, I totally agree. And then it's funny because they point out the weird little differences between the movie. Like they have Vince Vaughn like masturbating as Norman Bates when he's watching what's her face as
Yeah, Anne Hesh.
Graham Hesh, right, right. Showering. Yeah, yeah. I am glad it failed as well. But I mean, unfortunately, we have so many remakes now. What's good about this documentary is, yeah, there's like remakes in this documentary. There's certainly sequels, but there's so many original movies in this documentary, right? And there's this great section where they talk about Wishmaster, and they have what's the name of the guy that plays Wishmaster?
Andrew Divoff.
Oh, he was another fantastic talking head. I
He
just love
was.
he just
Excellent.
seemed like such a nice guy, and he's talking about like playing that character. Like I was like, damn, I want to see more of him. I mean, he was in Lost, he was in a whole bunch of things too, but there's like just so much more bravery back then in the '90s to make movies. Now it's like they just have to take something that's an established IP. They're making so many new original things, and there's stuff that's like connected to franchises. There's a lot of Tales from the Crypt stuff in this
Hmm.
documentary. We have Demon Knight, we have Bordello of Blood, then you
Oh
have
my
Tales from
God, the stories about
Dennis
Bordello of
Leary.
Blood. I mean, what's his name does not come across. Dennis
Dennis,
Leary does not come
oh,
across very
that's Dennis Miller.
positively in
Like Dennis Leary
this.
is the other comedian.
What happened? Oh, not
Dennis Miller.
Dennis. I'm Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller.
Right. It's all good. Doesn't matter. Yeah, he comes off as a total douchebag, which I mean, is that really a surprise?
Not particularly.
Yeah.
I had heard some of those stories before, but again, weird placement is that they put that movie right before or right after. There, it's back to back with The Island of Dr. Moreau, which
Oh yeah.
so it's like back to back movies where the behind the scenes story
Yeah.
is so much better than the
Yeah.
movie that's on screen. Like
Right.
to the point where there is a documentary about the making of Island of Dr. Moreau and Richard Stanley, the hell that he went through directing it, and then how he like refused to leave the set and dressed up as one of the characters to stay in the movie. I it just the documentary they bring it up called Lost Souls is just
Oh,
wild.
I love that documentary. Yeah. And I remember we were looking into Richard Stanley because we were going to cover his Color of Space, and
Yeah,
so
and
that
it
was
was
going to be
right
fun.
before he got like Me Too'd.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, but I remember that fucking Island of Dr. Moreau movie when I was in the theater, and I remember it being sort of like sensational, even though it was bad. It was yet again like this weird ass fucking movie. And just the behind the scenes stuff. It's so great. Like then there's movies that like I don't even know if I ever heard of. Like maybe I heard the title of, but like The Dentist, for example, right? They talk about the behind the scenes of that, how they made like this gigantic mouth to do all these scenes that are inside of a person's mouth. And
Brian Yuzna.
yeah, like this documentary just makes all these movies that you've never seen just seem so much more appealing. And Corbin Burnson, another great talking head. He just was like really charming. He talks about how like dentists got mad at him because he essentially undid all the goodwill that they had built up for dentists by making this horrible movie. And it was kind of rough to watch. Like when you watch this documentary, David doesn't hold back. He shows some of the most disturbing things in this
Oh
documentary.
yeah. I saw the dentist. I actually just had this conversation. I don't go to the dentist. I brush my teeth in the morning. I brush my teeth at night. I floss every day. And I will go to the dentist when my teeth hurt. Luckily, knock on wood, my teeth have not hurt in probably 5 years now. I don't like going to the dentist, and that movie is partly why. I saw that movie when it came out, and I had nothing. A lot of my friends had braces, and I was afraid if I went to the dentist when I was a kid, they were going to tell me I needed braces, and I didn't want to go through that. And I didn't end up needing braces, but like, I've gone to the dentist where they've said to me, "Oh, you must be in excruciating pain." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And the next thing you know, I'm having oral surgery because I have impacted wisdom teeth. And I'm like, "Fuck this." Like,
Yeah.
I'll wait for the pain next time.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, that movie scarred me. And that movie also has a very young, like second movie ever from, oh my God, Mark Ruffalo.
Oh wow. Okay. That's fucking crazy.
What I was
Yeah.
thinking is, I don't know if you have like a list, but are there movies that like what would be the movies that you haven't seen that would be first on your list to go out and watch, or movies that you haven't seen since this time period, 95 to 99, that you're most excited to rewatch?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a really, really good question. I want to see Lord of Illusion because I love Clive Barker so much, right? And I've never seen Lord of Illusion, and it just looks fucking wild as hell. And then there's that one fucking Asian movie where it's like they're working on a play, and like there's like a spirit that's like up in the rafters. Like what the fuck was that movie? It's called like Don't Look Up or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Don't Look Up. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I actually rented on like Fandango at home. I rented Cure because I've heard so many great things about Cure before this documentary, and then like seeing them do like a piece on that, I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
finally gonna watch Cure. I think that was like either 97, I want to say 1997. Um in terms of movies I want to rewatch, um I haven't seen Mimic probably since
Um,
the movie
Theater.
theater.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's an early Guillermo del Toro. It's a
Right.
movie where, like, I never knew the story that he was basically threatened that he was going to be fired. And that, like, members of the cast were like, no, 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 you fire him, we walk off set. And I love Guillermo. Like, even his movies that I don't love, there's just a style and a passion for filmmaking and a passion for horror that seeps in, even when it's not my favorite movie. Like, it's what helped me. I feel like I didn't love Frankenstein. I liked it a lot, but I respected the hell out of it and everything that went into it because it's Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I want to rewatch Mimic. And
Sure.
then there's so many of these movies that I really want to show Charlotte. Like even if it's a movie of its time that she might not like because of the style, I want to show her Blair Witch. Uh I love that this they brought up Stir of Echoes, which I
Oh,
feel like Stir of Echoes is one of the best ghost stories of that era. The problem is it came out the same year as The Sixth Sense, and it just got
um,
completely like swallowed up
hmm.
um in Sixth Sense Shyamalan mania.
Right.
And I loved Stir of Echoes when I saw it, and I want to give that a rewatch as well.
Sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that was around when I was working in the theater, that one too. What is that Asian movie where it was like it's about a detective who's already kind of at wit's end, and there's people that just keep committing these horrible murders. There's something that's connecting them.
That's
Do you know what I'm talking
Cure.
about? Oh, okay, that's Cure. Okay, good. Because you kept saying Cure, and I'm like, oh, dude, does he mean Cube? Because I actually do want to see Cube too.
Oh, do you know what's funny? The Lucky 13, the bar that I play trivia at, where I'll actually be tomorrow night for trivia,
Yeah.
they just showed Cube for their movie night last week.
Oh shit.
Um, yeah, that's another movie I have not watched in a long time. And I know
Yeah.
there's like multiple sequels now.
Yeah.
They had the one of the talking heads is like the director of the original.
Right.
Um, yeah, that movie, like that first kill that they show, I always kind of felt like, oh, Resident Evil, the first Resident Evil movie, like took that for that like great scene with the where like
Yep. The
the
lasers.
agent, yeah, he gets like cubed up basically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I've never seen that movie, so I'd be totally down to watch that. And there's a Michael Baldwin is in this documentary too, and he talks about Phantasm. I think he talked about Phantasm
Four.
4. Yeah, yeah. And so like I just watched all the Phantasm movies recently because Mike Bongiorno and I were going to talk about it on Pop Culture Man Children, the first movie. And I just loved seeing a Michael Baldwin on there talking about Phantasm. But the cool thing is that like he's not just on there for Phantasm. Like they have random people, like they have Ted Raimi, where he's talking about this fucking weird ass serial killer movie that he was in. Did you ever see
Dinner.
that
Yep.
one? Okay, okay. So like I just love these random people, but then there are people that are like the go-tos where he kind of keeps using them. And of course,
Yeah.
I gotta bring this up. He interviews C. Robert Cargill. C. Robert Cargill is a big part of this fucking documentary. You
Yeah.
know, he's a big part of when they're talking about the soundtracks. He brings up a really good point about how there's a difference between the soundtrack and the score, and that it'd be hard to find the score sometimes. You can find the soundtrack everywhere, but then you could, it'd be hard to find the score for movies.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they had Marco Beltrami was a talking head who does the score for Scream and is still working today, I think, with Radio Silence. I think he did the score for Ready or Not.
yeah.
So like, yeah. Um, you brought up A. Michael Baldwin and Phantasm. Just as a side note, I just finished the book, the um, Encyclopocalypse book by Dustin McNeil, Phantasm Exhumed, on Audible, and it covers the making of the first five, well, the first four, and then a little bit about. I think the book was made when Ravager was like in the process of being made, and then there's
Oh,
like an addendum book about Ravager. But yeah, Dustin McNeil's book. I've read a ton of his books. I read his Slash of the Titans earlier this year about what it took to get Freddy versus Jason made.
yeah.
He's like a. It's just like I feel like those books are just like food. They're like dog food for dogs, and I'm the
Yeah.
dog. It's
Ah,
like it. They don't require any thinking. It's just sit back and, especially on Audible, just listen to. It's like the history of this one franchise that you love, the
yep.
history of this one project that you've heard so much about, and yeah, Phantasm Oblivion Part 4. It's funny that you and Mike are doing that because I rewatched parts 1 and 2 because I was reading the book.
Yeah.
I'm up to actually rewatching part 3, and then I was like, because of the documentary, I was like, oh well, I can't wait to rewatch part 4 now. A. Michael Baldwin was in the documentary, talks about how he came on not only as an actor but as a producer. Um, yeah, so if you guys are doing a Phantasm talk, I'll jump right in. I love that franchise. It's
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
weirdest friggin' franchises out there, and weird in the best possible way.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Daddy O. As much as I'd love you to jump in, we did that episode like months ago.
Oh,
That was that was
fuck you then.
yeah. But no, I mean that's the thing though. In the '90s, you could make a fucking weird movie like that. There's
I just
so
realized if you took me and you and kind of combined our heads together, we'd look like Reggie.
oh my god.
You have the bald head, and I have the ponytail. Now we just
Oh,
need
God.
a 4-barrel shotgun, and we're good to go, and an
Yeah,
ice
and
cream truck.
an ice cream truck, right? Exactly. Oh my god, Danny, Jesus Christ. No, you just totally threw off my fucking train of thought with that too. Um, No, I mean, I don't know. Like this documentary is fucking 6 hours long. We could easily keep talking about it. Was there any other thing that you wanted to like hit on or talk about?
I just the only other thing I did was I just wrote down one movie for each year that I feel doesn't get talked about enough. That if I was recommending this, which I am, I'm 100% fucking recommending this. My name is in the end credits. Our name is in this because I put the Lasser cast. Um, if like people were like, oh, 95 to 99, what's like one movie I should go see? So I just jotted down for and I'm not picking the bit like I'm not taking Scream for 1996. Like I'm going on the idea that you've seen that.
Yeah.
1995, Stuart Gordon's Castle Freak. Just a sick, depraved movie. If you love Reanimator, if you love uh from Beyond. It's Stuart Gordon. It's Barbara Crampton. It's Jeffrey Combs. Uh, Basically, my favorite part. They show one of the talking heads, and they cover a lot of the Full Moon movies. Is Charles Band, and basically he told Stuart Gordon, "Here's the I own a castle Here's the title of the movie is Castle Freak. I don't care what movie you make. It has to have a castle. It has to have a freak.
Right.
Yeah. 1996, Della Morte Dell'Amore, which I think came out in 94 in Italy, but came out in 96 in America. It's, I don't know if you've covered the Dylan Dog comics with Brian or if,
Yeah. Cemetery Man. We
yeah,
haven't covered it. No, no.
one of my all-time favorite horror movies, one of my favorite Italian horror movies of all time, and the absolute, to get completely perverted for a second, the greatest looking naked woman on a screen you will ever see, Anna Fauci, in this movie. That'll get you to go watch it.
Yeah, man.
1987, we mentioned Stephen King adaptations. The Night Flyer is, I just watched this for the first time because it's like completely not available to have a hard copy of. It's actually weirdly streaming on YouTube for free, the entire movie. And it's Miguel Ferrer, the great late Miguel Ferrer, as this like just asshole photographer for like a World Weekly News type paper, and he's following a vampire who flies in a like little warplane from place to place, killing people on his route.
Right.
Really cool with a fucking crazy last 10 minutes. 1998, Deep Rising. I
Oh yeah.
love aquatic underwater horror movies. This is a giant tentacle horror movie. I love it. It's got an amazing cast full of fun uh, actors. Every single one of them you will recognize, including Kano from the original Mortal Kombat.
Oh my
And
God.
then for 1999, I wrote down Stir of Echoes, which I already mentioned, which I think is, you know, it goes head to head with The Sixth Sense for best ghost story movie of 1999. It just doesn't have the like jaw dropping ending, um, and like the killer big screen debut of Shyamalan, but it's a fucking underrated horror movie, ghost movie. So yeah, those are just like my one movie per year recommendations. Like for if you want to check out something that isn't like the top five that you would absolutely know.
No, I mean those are excellent, man. And I've actually I haven't seen most of those, so I will have to go check it out myself. No, we're just grateful that David always wants to come back on our show, and he's always like promoting this, and that he puts these out like so regularly too. Because now I know that they're
Speaking of
working on.
that, speaking of
Right.
that, I don't know if I just cut you off from what you were going to say, but he, I got an email from Creator VC about his next documentary, which is The In Search of Darkness of the 1970s. And
Right.
I could not be more excited. I think that is the unquestioned greatest decade in movie history, and sentence movie history. You know, you include you have in the same, you have the greatest movies of like the directors that basically set the stage for the rest of the 1900s in that era. You have the rise of Spielberg with Jaws and Close Encounters. You have Star Wars. You have obviously The Godfathers 1 and 2. Uh, you have, and then when you just think about horror movies, you have The Exorcist. You have The Omen. You have Alien. You have Phantasm. You have The Wicker Man. The list goes on and on. Carrie, Black Christmas, uh,
Halloween.
Suspiria, Halloween. Yeah, like so many that I forgot to mention Halloween. It's to me, whenever people argue 70s versus 80s, I always just go back to quality, quantity. The
Yep.
80s
Yep.
has great stuff. Nobody's denying that. I love 80s horror, but it's quantity. The 70s is a smaller sample and it is quality. It is the fucking best. And I filled out the questionnaire. I put a list of movies. I cannot wait. And to David Weiner, as soon as you want to talk about 1970s horror, come on back to the Lasser Cast. We will gladly have you on. We'll give you as much time as you want, and I can't wait for that. Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure he will come on to talk about it. Like, I don't need a crystal ball to predict
yeah,
that.
whenever we are here and ready to go.
Yes. Yes. So, Danny, what else on our channel then do we have ready to go for our viewers?
Well, why don't you mention the interview you just put up for Alien Day? Uh,
Okay.
Pete just interviewed an author, so he'll talk about that in a second. As far as I go, I just have a few short reviews. I reviewed Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Weird, um, confusing. I reviewed a bunch of other. Um, they Will Kill You. The New Faces of Death. I have 30. I have 60-second reviews of those movies up on the channel now. And Pete and I are covering Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, season 2, which is on Apple TV.
Yes. Yeah, so you can check that out. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video.
Who did you
As far
interview?
Yeah,
Before you
yeah, yeah.
forget.
As far as it goes, that Danny mentioned, I interviewed this guy named Adam Tierney, and Adam Tierney has directed multiple video games, and he's also written multiple comics at this point. And the reason why I had him come on our show before 426 Alien Day is because he directed this game, Aliens Infestation, which is essentially like a bridge between Aliens and Alien 3. So it's after Aliens happens and Alien 3. And he was just a really awesome dude to talk to. We talked about Aliens Infestation, but we talked about his comics, and his comics were all horror comics. So I thought he was a good guest for the channel. You guys should check it out. The interview's like an hour and a half long. And then if you are still craving for some alien content, you can also go over to the other channel that I have, Comic Books Transformed, where me and Mike Bongiorno, who I mentioned before, he came on the show so we could talk about Alien, the Illustrated Story, which was an adaptation of the Alien movie into a comic, and it was published in Heavy Metal magazine. It's a beautiful fucking book, and we had a lot of fun talking about that. So, yeah.
And if you are Wes Craven, more of In Search of Darkness, 1995 to 1999, you can go, I believe it is still streaming on Shudder. If you did not pick up the awesome Blu-ray, you could also just go to 90shorrordoc.com. And I think you can try to still order it. But yeah, just another awesome way to, as a horror fan, and even just as if you are our age, if your age starts with a 4 and you lived through this era, this late 90s era, even if you're not the biggest horror fan in the world, you will get so much enjoyment out of this documentary. It really did hit those nostalgia buttons for me. I don't, like it might be my favorite of the ones so far just because of the time period that it was covering.
Yeah, shit, yeah, I totally agree. Yes, yes. So, guys, like I said before, if you could subscribe to our channel, that would be awesome. I'd really love us to get 1,000 subscribers sometime soon. And also give us a like and let us know what your favorite movie from that time period was. And speaking of enjoyment, I'm going to go and look up Anna Fauci in Cemetery Man. See you guys next time.